Alright, let's dive into some powerful lessons from Judges chapter 3, which shows us a real cycle of rebellion, discipline, and deliverance that the people of Israel experienced. The story kicks off with the Israelites doing evil in the sight of the Lord. They forgot God and started worshipping other gods like Baal and Asherah. This wasn't just a small slip. They fully turned their hearts away, chasing after gods who promised fun and prosperity but couldn't deliver. As a result, God's anger was kindled, and he allowed oppressors to come against Israel first, King Cushan-Rishabim of Mesopotamia. The people suffered under his rule for 8 years. But when they cried out to God, he raised up a leader named Othniel, Caleb's younger brother. Now, Othniel wasn't some mysterious figure. We actually saw him earlier in Judges 1. He was a strong leader from the right family, part of Judah's tribe. God empowered him to defeat the enemy and bring 40 years of peace. This part is like that easy first round when you learn a card game. God uses an ordinary, expected hero to save his people. But here's the pattern that continues throughout Judges. After some rest, the people fall back into doing evil, drifting away from God again. This time, God strengthens Eglon, king of Moab, to oppress them for 18 years. This next story is quite vivid, and maybe a little strange. Eglon was a very fat man. His name actually means calf, like a fattened calf ready for sacrifice. Enter Ehud, an unlikely hero from the tribe of Benjamin, who was left-handed. Some suggest his right hand was even disabled. Ehud crafted a double-edged sword about a cubit long, and secretly brought tribute to Eglon. Here's where the story gets both graphic and strategic. Ehud tells Eglon he has a secret message from God, gets the king alone, then uses the sword to kill him. The sword goes in deep, and the king's belly shuts over it, terrifying imagery, but it works. Ehud escapes while the king's servants think he's just off relieving himself, buys time, and sounds the trumpet to rally Israel. They then defeat 10,000 Moabite warriors, and peace reigns for 80 years, the longest rest in Judges. What's striking here is that God uses shrewdness and even messiness in perfect people, sneaky plans, brute force, to save his people. Ehud's story reminds us that God's ways aren't always neat or obvious, but he can use unexpected and flawed individuals to achieve his purposes. Sometimes, God works through tough, even awkward situations to draw people back to himself. Now, the third story is even shorter but packed with surprise. Shamgar, a mysterious figure, kills 600 Philistines with an ox goad, a farming tool, not a weapon of war. This suggests God can use the unexpected and even the mundane to bring deliverance. The ox goad was simply a stick with a sharp point used to prod oxen, yet with it, Shamgar saves Israel. It makes you think. God often works through what seems weak or ordinary, sometimes even through brute strength or surprising means, to protect and restore his people. So, what can we take from this? First, the judges offer only temporary peace. Each judge, no matter how great, brings rest that lasts for a while, but the people eventually drift again. This points us to someone greater, Jesus Christ, the ultimate judge, who offers true and lasting rest. The Bible tells us in Hebrews and Matthew that Jesus invites everyone who is weary to come to him and find rest for their souls, a rest that lasts forever, unlike the fleeting peace during the Judges. Second, we see that God is sovereign, like a chess master moving all the pieces on a vast board. He raises up and uses both good and bad, players, leaders, nations, ordinary folk, even flawed heroes, to fulfill his purposes. God controls both victory and discipline, always working to draw his people back to himself. And lastly, that repeated phrase, the people of Israel did evil in the sight of the Lord, reminds us how easily people drift away, even after experiencing God's faithfulness. It's a warning to watch our hearts so we don't turn away from God, chasing after fleeting promises from the world. But even when we do drift, God invites us to cry out to him, knowing He is faithful and ready to restore us, using any means necessary, ordinary, shrewd, or surprising. So, as we consider these stories, let's remember that God is at work in our messes. He uses all kinds of people and situations to save and restore us. And more than that, we have Jesus, who is the perfect, unending Savior and Judge, inviting us to rest fully in Him. When we falter, may we call out to Him and trust His faithful love to bring us back. Thanks for listening today. I hope these stories encourage you to see God's hand, even in the messy parts of life, and remind you that His rest is available for anyone who turns to Him.